Dylan Sinn from the Fort Wayne Journal-Gazette with us, brought to you by our good friend Cheryl Sizemore and Remax Realty. For those in the market for a home in the Indianapolis area, you need Cheryl and her 2 decades of experience. That could be the difference between getting the home you want or not. Reach out to her, Cheryl, at IndyHomePros.com. Dylan, how are you, sir?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, Jim.
Always a pleasure to have you. And it's better that I guess that you couldn't make it Wednesday because we have more to talk about now. But you mentioned in the break that you had a wedding emergency as Dylan is preparing to get married, and that they had to meet with one of their people that is helping make this wedding great as what it will be. And I told him, I said, that's why you're going to be a great husband. If that had been me, I'd have said, yeah, I don't, you take care of that. I don't care. I could care less what color the tablecloths are going to be. I don't care what color the chairs are going to be. Yada, yada. I didn't care. I'm the guy that got married in mid-February because it worked out with my rodeo schedule. So that's what makes you the better husband. And I'm no longer married. I might add. So that tells you that story. But welcome aboard, and I'm glad you got that stuff worked out. But it brings us to a day in which Indiana has now two guys that are crystal balled to the program, 2 guards in Miles Rice and Kanaan Carlyle, the latest from Stanford. First of all, those 2 guys, what do you think of their production?
I mean, obviously they're both. So when the offseason started, my point was basically there are going to be people who tell you can't build through the transfer portal. It's impossible, yada, yada. And my point was.
And first of all, anybody that says that I'm sorry, I shouldn't say this word, but they're an idiot.
Right.
Yes, you can. Just go look at what Danny Hurley did.
Yes, exactly. And to a certain extent, yeah. And there are other programs that did it, but yes, Connecticut is a great example, right? And so because the refrain you heard a lot was you shouldn't build through the transfer portal, you should use it to supplement. Okay, fine. I get that. You'd rather build through high school recruiting, fine. But there are ways to do it. And one of the ways to do it is get freshmen who have 3 years of eligibility left. And that's what both of these guys have, is they've been in college for 1 year. This is just high school recruiting by another name, basically. You're basically letting these guys be. It's a farm system, basically. You're calling them up from the lower levels into the majors, right? That's what you're doing, because both of these guys produced in the Pac-12. Now, the Pac-12 was not a great league this year. It was a good one, not a great one. And you have an opportunity now to get these guys and call them up to a higher level, basically. And I think that makes a lot of sense for IU, is that you're going to have these guys who could stick around theoretically for 2 or 3 years, depending on how they play. And so it's not a 1-year rental for either of them, theoretically. And they both produced at the lower level. They both averaged double-figure scoring. Miles Rice was also a good distributor. There's shooting talent there. I know that people are worried about the 3-point percentages. I get it. I know. But both of them have shooting talent. Coming out of high school, that was something that they were considered good at. And so I think that a lot of people struggle as freshmen to shoot the ball, right? We saw Fletcher Lawyer at Purdue was a 32% 3-point shooter as a freshman. He was 45% this year, basically. So you take a big jump as a shooter between freshman and sophomore year because you're getting used to the speed of the game, right? So I do think that both of them will shoot the ball relatively well, good enough to space the floor around the big men that IU get. So I do like both of these additions, if indeed they come to pass, right? That crystal ball is not a guarantee of anything, but I do like both of the additions if they come to pass. And I do think that IU will probably add more guards. I think that they're not done. And so I think that's what is exciting, is that you already have these guys. You already have Trey Galloway. You already have Anthony Leal. You already have Gabe Cupps. Now you're adding guys on top of that and creating depth for yourself, which is something which is something that IU didn't have last year. I think that's going to be the most important part of next season is you're taking these transfers, you're adding starters, and you're adding depth. And I think that's the important part.
Rex just made a good point. Connor Hickman also in this mix, but if they were to pick up those two guys and say Conwell, or it would have to come down to Conwell and Hickman at that point. You're not going to add four guards. I would not imagine.
Probably not. No, because you still need to add at least a big guy or two. Because right now they don't have a true center. They could play Malik at center. Obviously, that's a possibility and play a smaller lineup. But you still need some kind of backup because right now they don't have anyone else on the roster who's kind of in the front court basically. So you're going to need someone to do that. I do think that that's the case. I think that I know there's interest in Conwell. I can tell you that. And I would not be surprised if he is a priority target for them. So I don't think that adding Carlyle and adding Rice, if indeed they do that, means that Conwell is not an option. I don't think that that's something where you're going to say, well, we have too much guard depth at this point. I don't think that's something that IU is going to do. So maybe you end up with six guards who are potentially starters. Like that is the dream for IU, is to have six guys who you could play 20 minutes a game if you need them to. And they didn't have that last year, and you're trying to get that to be a possibility this year. And so that would be ideal.
So then, besides the guards, now you've got what's his first name?
Oumar Ballo.
Oumar Ballo. You want to talk about a big? The dude's a big. He's 7 foot, 260 pounds, a la Zach Edey. But I'm thinking that maybe I haven't seen him play a lick. So, but I'm thinking that maybe he's at least more athletic. The one thing that I will say about Zach Edey is he has, very, very little athletic ability. He's not an athlete. No, that's not right. I don't mean that he's not an athlete. He's not a jumper. He's not fast. He's not going to be able to run around. But I don't think Indiana is going to do well with a guy that just parks it either. You need an offense. That's why UConn was successful. They had a big and 7'2", but this guy was athletic. He moved around. He had a big wingspan. He could move, and it made a difference. And it makes a difference, especially when you run the type of offense that is needed, one that does move the ball. And so Ballo, then you wonder, okay, well, what's Renew? He's not a true five, and I don't know that he could play the five. Well, I guess he could, but I don't know how successful that would put Indiana in the upper echelon against teams. And then we know he still has a penchant for fouling, and there will still have to be someone either backing him up or in front of him. It's an odd situation. Renew's a tweener. He's not a good four anymore. He's not quick enough to be a four, but he's not quite big enough to be a five in a lot of games today.
Yeah, the thing is that he's not a great rebounder, right? And so I don't think
it's unbelievable.
Yeah, and maybe he gets better at that this offseason, right? Remember, he was only a sophomore last year. I think we kind of think of him as a finished product. He got significantly better last offseason. He was much, much better as a sophomore than he was as a freshman. There's every possibility. There's every possibility that he could get better again as a junior. Maybe he comes out as a better rebounder. Maybe he comes out with a better game that makes him a five, that they can play with that. I know that there's mutual interest with Ballo. I think it would be. Ballo goes in the category for me of you add a good player and you ask questions later, right? Like basically, like I don't know how the fit would work there. I don't know how great the fit would be, but Ballo is such a good player. He's so strong. He's so athletic, and he would be a star. I don't know that it's one of those things. Well, we don't fit. Well, you take him and you figure out the fit later. Would be my opinion on that one.